Hi folks, hope you're okay. Today I just want to give some more advice about debates with skeptics. I think also make sure that when you're debating a skeptic at university or college or wherever, or if you're doing an academic debate, make sure that you know your stuff, make sure that you've done your research. If you look at the best debates are where the people have done the research, and you can tell whether a debater is prepared for the debate or not. Excellent debates that I've seen are by Kyle Butt, Christian apologist, where you can tell that he's done the research. If you look at the debate between him and Dan Barker, there's a couple of debates, and you can see that Kyle Butt's done his homework, done his research. So make sure that you do your research. Another person from the atheist side is Dan Courtney. If you look at his debates, he's done his research, he's done his homework. Uh, so you need to know your subject well, and you need to have researched well. Um, and if you do that, you'll do well in the debate, and also the debate will be educational as well as just a debate about showing the weakness of or strength of the other person's position. It will also be an educational. An excellent debate is by James White and Dr. Price, on Dr. Price's work, and both of them did well because both of them did their research, and it became an educational debate, an informative debate, because they were informing the public about the researches that they'd done on each other's position. Um, so I've always tried to make sure that if I've had a debate, I always try to do my homework. I've always tried to do the research needed. Um, and I think that you've got to work hard and go beyond your opponent. What I mean is, your opponent's going to prepare for the debate, but you need to make sure that you've prepared even harder, that you've worked even harder. So the more reading that you do, the more research that you do, the deeper and the wider you go, the better you're going to be prepared. So you need to make sure if you're going into a debate that you're well prepared, that you've done the research required. And I've always tried to make sure that if I do have a debate or a discussion, about 90% of the time, if it's more of a formal way, I've always made sure that I've done my research. A couple of times I've slipped up and not been prepared on a Google Hangout, but most of the time I'll go prepared. If you want to see me being prepared for a discussion, if you go on Lola Preachers, you'll see me discuss with an atheist on Kant, and it's quite clear if you go and see that discussion that I've done my homework, I've done my research. We was talking about the first 100 pages of Kant, and I'd read Kant, but I'd also read wider afield, and that comes out in the discussion. Um, so make sure you do your research. Make your rebuttals devastating. It's no good just chinking at the armor of your opponent. You, your rebuttals have to be devastating to the opponent, or you're not going to win the debate. So you need to bring your opponent in, and then you need to trap them, and then cut them down. So if you look at my debate with DPR Jones, um, I bring him in, and I ask him a question. I said to him in the debate, I said, "Is it true that you only believe in something that you have evidence for?" So I bring him in. I'm entrapping him. So he says, "Yeah." And then when I've trapped him, when I've got him to say that, and that's the whole basis of his position as an atheist, that is based on evidence. So I've got him there to say that. Once I've got him to say that, then I bring in I bring his legs from under him, his rational legs from under him, where I then say, well, you've just said that you don't believe anything unless it's based on evidence. So, abiogenesis, life from non-life, do you have evidence for that? And then he says no, and he tries to equivocate and get out of it. But he just admitted that he only believes in things with evidence, but then I get him to see, then I make the point that he believes things that he hasn't got evidence. So I've completely, not just chinked him a little bit, I've literally floored the guy. I've knocked the feet from under him. Yeah? And that's what you've got to do in a debate. You're not looking for just little chinks, you've got to look for the knockout blows in your rebuttals. You've got to aim at completely devastating your opponent in their argument. So you have to look for the weaknesses. And it's not a case of the presuppositional arguments where it's a gotcha. The gotcha arguments. It's deeper than that, more devastating than that. You've got to look for your opponent's main strength, that they're trying to get the audience to perceive their main strength. So you take their main strength that they are trying to advocate, and then you bring in something that completely floors that and annihilates it. That completely floors that and annihilates it. And that is a powerful way of debating, when you can do that. And it takes a lot of hard work, a lot of thinking of where their strength is, what they perceive as their strength, and then get them to admit it in your rebuttal, and then when they've admitted it, bring them down by the counter argument. So you need to draw them in, and when you've drawn them in, you cut them from underneath them. Another example is my debate with the global atheist. The guy his main strength is science. He's a scientist. I'm not a scientist. But if you go and watch my debate with the global atheist, which was spoilt by the militant atheist at the end because of the shenanigans that they do, but if you look at, he's a decent atheist, and if you look at the debate we had a very amicable debate and discussion. But he was very, very good at science. But if you watch the debate, he gets annihilated, because I take his strength, science, and I use it against him. His strength is science, so he's going on and on and on about science in the debate. But the area, so what I do then, I entrap him. I say, well, give me a definition of consciousness. So being confident of his methodology, his scientific methodology, he rather confidently gives the statement about consciousness. But then I take him apart, because then I show him that this great strength that he has about science, and when he makes a comment about consciousness, I undermined it by showing that his definition of consciousness is actually premature, that from a neuroscience perspective, it is not what he's saying. So I'm taking his strength and I'm undermining it, and that's a powerful methodology. It's powerful and it's devastating. So when you're in a debate, you're not looking to you're looking for devastation. You shouldn't be looking just to win an argument. You should be looking for something that absolutely destroys the argument of your opponent utterly. You shouldn't be playing around with uh, fast and loose here, there. You should be looking for the absolute knockout punch in that person's position. And very often it's their strength. You take their strength and then you get them to admit the strength, and then you undermine that with something. And when you do that, you'll win the debate, because you've taken their strength and you've just destroyed it. And so as the debate unfolds, they just won't recover from that. And it has to be a very clear, you have to be very clear, crisp in it. It's no good using philosophical arguments that people can't understand. It's got to be like when I asked D.B.R. Jones, do you only believe in things that is of evidence? It's a very simple question. People can relate to it. It's taking his strength. People got that, yeah? Well, how come you believe this, but you've got no evidence for it? Boom, his positions are gone. Global atheist talks about science. Oh, okay, you're a science. Give me a definition of consciousness. Blah, blah, blah. Did you know that science is not as precise or as dogmatic as you? Did you realize that the quantum level just completely destroys what you're saying? And you've utterly devastated them with their own position. So you got to be ruthless in the debate. Ruthless in the sense that you can't hold back. Find the cleak in their armor, find the weakness, and destroy them. Literally destroy them. You just don't hold back. If their position is not watertight, don't mess about. Just destroy them in the rebuttal. Get them to admit their strong point. When they've admitted it, floor them with the counter. That's what you have to do. And when you floor them in the rebuttal, it's got to be where they can't recover from it. It's got to be so devastating they can't recover. And as they try to recover ground throughout the debate, you've won the debate before it even gets off the ground. You want to win the debate in the first rebuttal. That's what I've tried to do. And also, never underestimate your opponent. Always recognize that they will try and work out where you're from. So never underestimate them. Always work harder than them in your research. And I'm not the brightest person on the planet, but I do well when I do research, and I work hard in research. That's it, really. Nothing else to say, but in debate you've got to be ruthless. You've got to exploit your opponent's weakness, and you've got to make it clear that you've got to go for the jugular. Otherwise, you won't win the debate. Your opponent will overturn your position. Those are my thoughts anyway. That's you do it in love. You do it with grace, but you're not playing games. This is showing whose position is the truth, and so you need to make sure that you show Christianity is true by exposing in a devastating way the opponent's argument. Okay, thank you for listening. Take care.